Hello and welcome to another episode of the Classic Chloe Show, where we talk about music and its effects on every aspect of our daily lives. I'm your host, Chloe Castillo, and I have another fantastic guest for you today. Jason Hewlett is an amazing, award winning entertainer, author, and patriot, and he's also the president of Cardio Miracle. Jason, welcome to the show. Great to have you on here.
Chloe, this is so cool to be here with you. Thanks for having me. I so admire your work. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. And of course, it's wonderful to have you on. So let's dive in here. You, like I just said, are an award winning entertainer. You're an amazing guy to watch perform. I've heard you a couple times when you toured alongside Tucker Carlson, opening for his events with Moms for America and Cardio Miracle. And that was an amazing tour to watch. And I just remember being in awe at the fact that you kept an enormous audience well beyond entertained while they were waiting for Tucker Carlson to take the stage. And your approach was so family friendly, even though it was an audience of mainly adults and not shy adults either. It was an audience of very fiery, patriotic, adults here. And your approach was still so family friendly, yet you kept them engaged the entire time, and you kept them truly enjoying your performance, like through and through. I know I did, and everyone around me was seemed to be having a great time. So, tell my audience a little bit about your approach as a comedian, as an entertainer. What makes you take that family friendly approach, and why does it work so well?
That's very kind of you to ask and to say all of those nice things. And truth be known, I started my career years ago, Chloe, where I wanted to make people laugh and smile and have a great time. I found early on that the word comedian, actually, where I live in a place called Utah, is a bad word. And so comedian became a word that I shied away from pretty quickly. So I turned it into a what I call the family friendly, G-rated, but Las Vegas quality entertainment show. And so that's a small niche. Not many people even try to attempt to do something like that. And so I realized that if I wanted to have a lot of opportunities to inspire people, that it would have to be a G-rated experience for corporations to have me come in, for families to be able to come together and attend something at either a charity or a religious event or any other place that I might get the stage. And so having that become my mantra, my promise, if you will, for myself, became something really important to me. A lot of people have asked, how did you come to that space of doing clean shows only? And the truth of the matter is that years ago, when I think I was 17 years old, I was in a talent show at a religious university. And when I did my impression of Michael Jackson, it was spot on. And it was so spot on that they were floored and freaked a little bit, because I did the moonwalk, I did the dancing and the music, and then I did this one move that Michael Jackson was famous for, which was extremely inappropriate for any man to do, but it it involved doing something I shouldn't have, with grabbing myself. And I only share that with your viewers because it was in that moment that I was disqualified from the talent show. And the music director who was in charge of this event, he said, "Young man, you've been raised better, you know better." And he said, "You need to pick a side." And that was a really come to Jesus moment for me, to be honest, because I didn't think that it was such a big deal, but apparently it was. And I chose in that moment that I said, okay, can I do an impression of an artist and still keep it clean for families to enjoy? Can I always keep it appropriate and something that can be enlightening and inspiring for people? So that's where it started as a kid, being kicked out of a talent show contest at a religious university. Isn't that an interesting story?
That's hilarious, actually. I love it. No, but I
Yeah.
love that you took that. That you actually stuck to that as an adult entertainer as well. I mean, it wasn't just like, oh shit, I got kicked out. Now let me, you know, mend this with your current state that you were dealing with. But that you actually kept that as a part of your value system and really understood that maybe that is a slippery slope to take, and maybe there's other ways to entertain, other ways to bring joy and humor to people without it having to be necessarily crass or whatever. So I think that's really awesome. So you mentioned a minute ago, and I liked this, that it's Vegas quality, but it's family friendly. And something that I think where I come from on this whole thing is music and entertainment world nowadays. It has gone so far left, and honestly, I think it has to do with they desensitized us to certain things and certain ideologies and values, and we become more and more accustomed to those. And it's taken us down a very slippery slope, and taken us straight into some very, very leftist, ideologies, and it's not having a good effect on our country in any way, shape, or form. But back to the quality you were saying, I'm tying this into this because, as someone who talks about this in the music a lot, I'm told, oh, well, Chloe, if you support conservative musicians and conservative artists, they don't have the same quality. They're not as good. They don't have the same show, ability. And so no one's going to want to buy this, basically, in the industry sense of things. And, it just stuns me in a way, because when you have people like Cardi B and Doja Cat and Megan Thee Stallion performing and saying and acting out, who in the world even wants to say what? It makes me think, surely we can do better than that. Surely there's better humor, there's better entertainment, there's better music, there's better, all of it. Surely we can actually rise above that and do something more entertaining and have a better impact on, our society, on our nation as a whole. So I really like that you specifically said it's the Vegas quality, which most people would associate, with being more vulgar, more promiscuous, kind of, in value system, but that you actually keep it that family rated show, but you have the quality to back it. So can you expand on that a little bit? Like, how do you accomplish this?
Wow, that's a cool question. And so the artistry of today, let's be honest, it's almost offensive. And there are artists that are still keeping it above board, but they're very few and far between. And I'm just really thankful when I see somebody that breaks through and the mainstream is it willing to accept and encourage and enjoy. And there are those artists like that. And however, it's almost a crapshoot to see if you can even watch them during a Super Bowl. And so the interesting thing I found is about Las Vegas is that there is an opportunity there for great artists to come through and break through, and they've done okay with it. In fact, in 2004, I had started my career in 2001 in Las Vegas. I was actually an impersonator there, and I learned really quickly that I had to compromise a lot of my standards and promises I'd made to myself and in my faith and culture that I was not really interested in doing if I wanted to keep going forward. And by within 3 years, from 2001 to 2004, I put together a one-man show that was now being sought after by the Las Vegas brass. And that was a really neat opportunity. There was a lot of money at stake and having my own casino show. And they just needed to manage my career, change a lot of the family-friendly Disney type stuff that I was doing, which was fun and silly. And they wanted it to just be more of the what happens here stays here theme. And so as I turned away that opportunity, I thought to myself, I know that I've been accepted by the Las Vegas quality standard, if you will, of being able to entertain an audience to the point that they would offer me a casino headlining opportunity. And so now can I take it into the world in a corporate fashion, in a public sense, and bring it to the masses? And I have been able to do that now for the last 20 years. It's been a great career, and I'm so thankful for that. I think that we have to make a choice, and a lot of people just say to themselves, the easiest laugh is to do something inappropriate. The quickest way to money and fame perhaps might just be going down this certain path of singing about certain things, saying certain words. I don't think it's a self-righteous choice that I made. It was rather just something that was intrinsically important to me. And when you see somebody like a Nate Bargatze, who's a comedian that's broken through and is very famous and loved now, guys like Jim Gaffigan, Brian Regan in the last decade or so, it's fun to watch those guys make it and work out so well. I'm thinking of artists like, the Taylor Swifts of the world, who started out at a place where you're like, oh, this is awesome. This is good country fun and great stories and singing and songwriting. It was beautiful. And obviously through the years had to shift quite a bit of what's going on with what she does in giant stadiums and becoming a global icon. And so we all have to make those choices as we go along. And hopefully we keep our promises we made initially as to why we do it and for who we do it for. And for me, it's always been about God and keeping it about that for families.
Absolutely. And that's a very important thing to discuss, actually, is that to who are you glorifying with your art, with your entertainment? And I think that Bach would write at the end of all his transcriptions, or all of his compositions rather, he would write Soli Deo Gloria, meaning to God be the glory. And I think that, we can take that out of the Baroque period. We don't have to necessarily go back to Baroque music to make that, something again. We can take that and put that in the modern music and the modern entertainment day and age that we are now in, and still give glory to God in a lot of the ways I'd say you're doing that. Yeah, absolutely. That's very interesting. So I want to talk about, what do you think, I guess, about the golden age of art and culture in America? It's mentioned a couple times by President Trump, actually, with the whole Kennedy Center, if I guess kind of redo, if you will. And I think it's really cool to hear our president recognizing, I guess, the need for a golden age, another golden age in art and culture in America. And so, what do you hope to see happen? Not necessarily from a political standpoint, but more from the culture. What do you hope to see, really growing over these next 4 years?
Well, I mean, it's a wonderful thing to think that that's where they want to go instead of where it's been for the last many years. It's been such a shame to watch the really the politicization of everything in terms of having the microphone given to the people that maybe would steer us in a direction that we probably don't want to go as a country. And obviously, the country decided that that was not the direction, and I'm grateful for that. And so I can just candidly say I think that this is the time and the place, and this is when artists and anybody who's watching or listening and feeling inspired or touched by the Spirit to say to themselves, maybe I am called to go and share my music. Maybe I am that person that can bring something of comedy or entertainment to the world that other people can't or won't or are too afraid to. I've talked to a lot of great artists through the years, especially the young female singers, and their dads would come to me and say, what do I do when my daughter wants to become, this Hollywood type or LA, recording label artist? What do we do? They're going to make her strip down and change the lyrics and do all these things. And it was like, well, let's see if she's willing to stand for something. Because if we don't stand for something, we fall for everything. I don't remember who said it, but these are great quotes, right? And so when it comes to the people they're going to put on the Kennedy Center stage, hopefully other venues will go for this as far as bringing in people that have something to say that is upright, that is good for our founding fathers, ideals and the purpose of this wonderful country, and that glorifies God. It doesn't mean that we all have to be a Christian country artist. That's not what it's about. I don't think. I mean, for them, that's amazing that they can make it and that they do well. But if you think about it, U2 is the world's biggest Christian band, and they've been doing pretty good. There are other artists like that, like the Killers and so forth, that are like a Christian band that have made it. And they don't necessarily lead with that as their moniker, but that is the underlying tone of their music. And I think that that kind of thing is wanted in the world today, and especially in this country, people are looking for it. And so I'm excited for what I believe is the golden age. I think we're stepping into it, and it depends on the people that are willing to step out there and put their name and face to it. Because when I started doing those Tucker tours, Chloe, I got a lot of pushback from a lot of my peers, and my peers are very much on the left, and I love them, and I love the peers on the right. But the peers on the right aren't really allowed to say much and step out into their power so much because the left is so strong. And so in order to be able to stand out there and say, this is what I believe, this is what I'm going to sing and perform, and it's going to be for everybody. I think that because it is for the masses, because it is about spreading joy, not necessarily one side or the other, that everybody then said, oh, wow, this is really amazing. We're all laughing about something that, isn't divisive in any way. It's inclusive, and God bless the USA for it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more on what you just said there as far as, you know, stepping out there. We have to have the people who will actually step out and, risk it a little bit, risk their careers even. I applaud you for being willing to actually go on that Tucker Carlson tour. I mean, what an honor. I mean, how much fun, first of all. But beyond that, I mean, it is risky though. And so I think that's fantastic. And as a father as well, that that's quite the example to set for your kids. You don't just bow down to, you don't go the easy route just because it's going to be more comfortable for you. So I applaud you for that. Let's do a quick ad break. We'll have a little bit more back from Jason in just a moment.
When things go sideways, will you be ready? Meet the new Patriot Power Generator 1200, a solar generator that's lightweight with more capacity and more life cycles, and recharges twice as fast, all at a fraction of the price. In a blackout, power lights, TVs, medical equipment, even your fridge. No gas, fumes, or noise. It's safe to use inside your home. This is about peace of mind. To learn more about this amazing generator and get your free solar panel, Go to Patriot TV Store and look for the solar generator banner.
I couldn't give anything a higher endorsement.
I would be remiss had I not include Cardio Miracle on my very short list of secrets.
It's the real deal. It's a real product. It's not another supplement.
I'm operating about 6 to 8 hours, and I've noticed that being on this Cardio Miracle has made a huge difference.
Since I started taking Cardio Miracle about 8 months into it, the benefits have been fantastic.
You know, if I get hungry, then I just have a Cardio Miracle.
Not only is it safe, but it's necessary to take Cardio Miracle to stay well.
This let me sleep. It's showing up more energy, more get up and go. And it's all because of what this company does.
For me as a doctor, Cardio Miracle is a staple.
Cardio Miracle to me is hope in a glass.
To try Cardio Miracle for yourself and get a special fan discount, go to the host page right now and click the link for Cardio Miracle.
Think you need a new roof? Think again. Roofs aren't made like they used to be. They have significantly less asphalt in them than they did 20 years ago. That's causing roofs to wear out way before they should. Roof Max can extend the life of your roof for at least 5 and up to 15 years, guaranteed. 9 out of 10 roofs qualify. Restore your roof at a fraction of the cost for a new roof. Mention Patriot TV and get their $859 roof tune-up for free. Call 1-800-ROOF-MAX. Jason, great to have you on the show here. So let's go back into our discussion a little bit, touching on what you just said at the end of our last little segment there, talking about the pushback you received from your peers. Can you expand on that? I guess my question for you is what do you really think the reason is behind that? I know you said that, it's a lot harder because the left controls everything. So let's kind of discuss what that was like, what the pushback was like. What kind of machine is behind all these entertainers that the ones on the right feel like they can't say anything, they can't do anything because they're going to be oppressed, they're going to be, canceled, whatever you want to call it. What is happening in the industry? As someone who has these peers, what's your take on all that?
Yeah, it was quite the backlash, I'll tell you, because you probably wouldn't know this, Chloe, but Cardio Miracle sponsored one stop of the Tucker Carlson tour, which was in Salt Lake City, Utah, where Tucker Carlson had rented out the Delta Center where the Utah Jazz play basketball, a huge arena. It's beautiful. And he brought in Glenn Beck. And so Glenn was his good guest for that show. And Cardio Miracle was able to convince the tour management to let me be the opening act. Now, nobody on the Tucker Carlson tour company or anybody knew who I was. And because they thought, well, he must just be this Cardio Miracle guy, which, yeah, I am the president of a health supplement company, and it's the best thing you can do for yourself. It's awesome, this great product. But they didn't know that I could perform in front of a lot of people and do it well, even though I've performed many times in that stadium and I've performed for millions of people through my career. So I got on the stage and they gave me about 11 minutes. They're very concerned it wouldn't go well. And I did really well. I did my Journey Broken Arms impression, and because I do a lot of parodies, and I did REO Speedwagon and Guns N' Roses with Marge Simpson, and just silly stuff that I like to do. I did my funny faces and things when I was a kid that I talk about, and everybody was laughing and having a great time. And then I closed my bit with God Bless USA, Lee Greenwood's classic. I didn't realize at the time this is the song that Trump's using for everything as well while he was working on being elected there. And so this was September of 2024. And after the show went so well, I got a standing ovation. Everybody had their lights up. Everyone was crying in joy and unity and patriotism, and came off the stage and got embraced by the Tucker Tour. And they said, hey, we want you at every show we have from now on. And it was only like the 4th or 5th show on their tour. Once the Tucker Carlson tour, people asked me to come on tour with them. Oh man, when I posted about that on my social media of tens of thousands of peers, friends, clients, people that have booked me for years, and friends, especially on the left, and, extremely liberal. And I love all of them, like I said, and I'll tell you, they came after me like you would not believe. I got private messages telling me I would be canceled right away. I got hurt pretty bad by some things that were said. And within a couple of weeks, I was, because I was doing shows every other night, essentially with Tucker, and these huge guests that he had that were apparently, I didn't know they were so controversial. People like Megyn Kelly or Jesse Kelly, or let's see who else they had. Oh man, they had RFK, JD Vance, Donald Trump Jr., Char- Charlie Kirk, like people that are amazing, right? I didn't know how amazing these people were until I'm sitting there listening to them and I'm going, these guys really know what they're talking about. And the more attacked I was by the left and by my friends saying, this is the wrong direction for you. You're not this guy. The more I thought, why are they saying I'm not this guy? What does that mean? And they kept saying, you need to stop. Don't do this tour. Chloe, you wouldn't know this, but I didn't get paid for that tour. I did it because I felt it was a civic responsibility and opportunity to be able to stand in front of tens of thousands of people each night and entertain them and make them feel happy, especially after a strip search by the Secret Service to get into the building. That made me feel really like I was living on purpose. And I was. I was a part of making history, I feel, along with Tucker and all of the great people that were on this tour, culminating in the night when I got to open for Donald Trump, which was really spectacular and also kind of the nail in my coffin, if you will, in terms of a lot of friendships and corporate opportunities. Because, you know, I've been booked for years, for decades, as a keynote speaker and as an entertainer for corporate events. They're very concerned that you don't want to have anyone political on your stage because they don't want to alienate anyone in the audience. And so where I'm a G-rated, family-friendly, but Las Vegas quality entertainer and speaker, Hall of Fame speaker even, I was good for everybody. Now they were pigeonholing me into this, oh, he's a politico, which I'm not. And so that was a really interesting thing to go through.
Absolutely. And you know, it's not the first story I've heard like that. You know, I've heard some actually more. I know you're conservative, with some more liberal friends of mine, who I very near and dear to me, and who they've supported me publicly as for my music, and not taking a political stance just for me as a musician. And I grew up in San Antonio, and it was a very liberal city, or is a very liberal city. I played for all the politicians in the area, and people who support me, you're now getting calls saying, "How could you do this? She's a right wing lunatic. She's awful." And so I think it's a very I guess usual story in a way. I mean, it's very common that the left they're so quick to attack, they're so quick to label, they're so quick to tell you, and they're so quick to go after your craft too. You're not a good performer. Well, clearly that's not true. So I mean, let's say they can pin you down on right wing lunatic, but they can't say you're a bad performer. I mean, that's those things shouldn't even really be correlating. Of course, you're not a right wing lunatic, but still, I think that it's really amazing the way they just label so quickly, and everyone else who reads these publications or watches these networks just falls right in line with what they say. And so as far as music entertainment goes, I mean, honestly, it's really amazing to see. I guess it's really amazing to see how much control they have, and just how far they have, entrenched themselves in the industry. And we kind of have just been playing their game for so long. And in my opinion, personally, I think it's time that as entertainers and as artists, we start making a way on our own. Because if we don't, our values, like the values I know you and I both hold dear as, as just regular everyday Americans who have, who love God and love their country and love their family, want to see in America. And if we don't, start creating something of our own, and for everyone too, not just, I don't just mean of our own as in like for our own audience, only preaching to the choir. I think it should be for all Americans, but not with that, leftist spin of, cancel culture, and you can't be here if you have conservative values. So anyway, where I'm going here with this, I guess I just want to ask you, we have a few minutes left in the show here. What do you think as an entertainer needs to happen from the conservative movement, from the conservative side, that I guess you honestly didn't really know exists in at the capacity that it does, which is amazing. So I guess, what do you think? And that goes to tell you too, also, that as you were sitting there listening to all these great speakers and political and cultural, I guess, commentators, it wasn't that you were brainwashed by right wing television and you were already primed to hear their talking points. As just a regular common sense man, you just heard what they were saying, and it resonated because it's just common sense values. And so that really goes to show you, I think, as someone who wasn't so engrossed in that media already, just your first glimpse of them, it made so much sense, I guess. So I want to ask you, as an entertainer, what do you think needs to happen from this conservative movement that definitely has the funding, definitely has the media presence, definitely is growing, every day now, especially with President Trump back in office? What can the conservative movement do to back artists, to back, I guess just an entertainment industry that isn't going to tear down America at its core?
That's amazing. Well, those are great questions. I would say you need to step into your power and you need to keep your promise and share your gifts. And when you do that, other people will feel the bravery of your courage and step into theirs as well. I had so many people that reached out that said, because you're out there, I'm so thankful that you're willing to step into this space. And that a lot of people said, I literally cannot go out in the public and do what you're doing, or I will lose all of my work, or I'll lose my family, I'll lose my relationships. It was really sad to see, Chloe. And I thought, wait a minute, is this what I have to do? And I'm kind of like sacrificing all of this so that other people can maybe have the opportunity themselves. And then I realized, oh, this is for real. And to have so many friends on the left that said that their party and their liberalism and everything that they think is that they accept everybody, love everybody, and lift everybody up, I found the absolute opposite, and I was stunned by it because I always felt that I was kind of in the, you know, I have conservative friends, I have liberal friends, and I always was in the middle and just a nice libertarian doing what I do. And as I felt like I was sort of forced into realizing that I had been absolutely unintelligent and uninspired. And as I started to see that there were other options out there after listening for so many years to the rhetoric, I was like, it's important for me to say something, to do something, to post something, to share something, to stand on stage and not be scared, to talk about God, to talk about family, to love what I come from in my faith. And I'm just so thankful that I had the mentorship of my father, who was the owner of Cardio Miracle, actually. And he said, you know what? We have to stand for something. And that's why we're sponsoring this Tucker Carlson tour. And we did, and it turned out awesome. And so that's why it's important to me.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Jason. So many amazing things were said there from you. And I think that it's really important for my audience to hear entertainers like yourself who, have that Vegas quality, but have the values of God, family, and country. And I think that's incredibly important. And it's inspiring too. It gives me hope. I know that. I hope it gives my audience hope as well to know that that exists and that that can be done. And there is potential for success there. It's not just a matter of, you're far left, you're far right. It's just values that as Americans, we know work in our country. We've seen it over decades, prior, and just wanting to bring back that common sense era in America again, I think can be done through entertainment is a big part of that. And so thank you so much for coming on, Jason. Great to have you. Where can my audience find you?
Well, I just appreciate you having me on. JasonHewlett.com is the right place, and you can check out my story about being a patriot as well. And then Cardio Miracle, I just wanted to tell your folks about it because honestly, if people are performers, you probably have jet lag. You're probably really tired. It's good for all of that. It's good to heal your voice real quickly after a performance. It's all about blood flow, helps people with their cardiovascular system. It's a great thing. So they can go to cardiomiracle.com.
Absolutely. Jason, thank you so much for coming on. God bless you.
God bless you. Thanks, Chloe.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. Please subscribe to the Classically Chloe Show on Rumble, YouTube, and Spotify. Please also follow me at classically_Chloe on Instagram and Classically Chloe on all our platforms. See you next week. God bless.